So if you're selecting a brand new set of cranks right now, you also want to determine whether it's left-hand drive or right-hand drive. If you sit on your bicycle and if your sprocket and chain are on the right-hand side of your bike, that's a right-hand drive. If you're sitting on your bike and it's on the left-hand drive. If you do want to change sides, usually riders will do that. So if, let's say, they grind on the right-hand side, they'll move it to the left-hand side, but you have to get the cranks, and you also have to make sure you have the rear wheel to correspond to give you a little bit more breathing room so you're not hitting your sprocket while grinding. So cranks can be designed in either a 2-piece or 3-piece design. A lot of that comes down to the company's preference as far as what they determine to be the strongest. Now, when selecting a crank arm, you're going to see that there's a difference in millimeters as far as length goes. Traditionally, somebody who maybe rides a little bit more trails or winds up racing might enjoy a longer crank because you're gonna have more room for your legs and it's gonna be a little smoother on your pedals. You might be able to get a little bit more torque with your gear ratio. Whereas in recent day, a lot of street riders have decided to go with shorter cranks. I believe one of the shortest cranks we sell is around 140 millimeters, which is actually a very short distance, but some of the advantages to that is that you'll actually have some clearance with your heel for your back peg on your bicycle if you run pegs, and even if you run 4 pegs. So it could give you some additional room, and other riders also like it because your feet are a little bit closer together for your center of balance. When it comes to the BMX crank, there's a lot of varieties to choose from out there. There's also a really large price range from entry level up to high end. Like anything in life, you get what you pay for. The entry level cranks are a great design and they will provide you with everything you need for riding, but as the price works its way up the ladder, what you wind up getting is a stronger crank, and you also at sometimes will wind up saving a little bit of weight as well, which those two elements when it comes to BMX, that strength, weight ratio, that's everything to determine how your bike will ride. Some cranks will actually come with their own bearing systems, but you see a lot actually don't. So what you're gonna need to do is purchase a bearing system for your bicycle. Now the outer diameter of the bearing is a standard issue, so this will fit into all BMX frames. But the inner diameter for the spindle is going to be different and unique per brand. You also want to make sure that you have yourself a sprocket. Now this is the gear that will attach either to the cranks or to your spindle, and the size of the sprocket will determine how difficult or easy it is to pedal your bicycle. Traditionally, the way it worked is that you had your spindle, you had your sprocket, and with a spacer, this would sit on here and bolt to the crank arm. Well, a few years ago, another option came into the market that was called a spline drive sprocket, and essentially the teeth are worked into the inner parts of the sprocket. It slides onto the spindle, and you do not necessarily need that additional bolt hole in the cranks. 3-piece, 2-piece, left hand, right hand, spline drive or regular. A lot of choices, but you can't go wrong when it comes to our selection out here. When it comes to cranks, you definitely get what you pay for, and as you work your way up that ladder, the strength to weight ratio is definitely going to be increasing out there. But if you get yourself a pair of 3-piece cranks that you like, it's an awesome way to really upgrade your BMX bike.